Hey guys, it's TassahG and welcome to the first episode of Morning Tea. Today I'm going to be talking about self-doubt and fear, both how they can affect you generally and especially as a student. I'll be sharing a lot of my personal experiences. I'll be telling you guys a little story about how I overcame self-doubt and how that led to me having an opportunity to go to China, how it allowed me to be able to create this YouTube channel, and how it allowed me to find my passion. I'll be sharing my personal tips for dealing with and overcoming, as well as repurposing fear and self-doubt. So if that's something that you're interested in, then make sure you keep on watching. I hope you guys have your cup of tea or maybe a snack, or maybe you're listening to this video as you're getting ready to go to work or on your way to your summer job. But whatever you're doing, I hope you're ready to listen to me chat a lot. But along the way, you're gonna get some good tips. So let me be cheesy and say, sit back, relax. We're about to talk for things. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm having a good time. So as will become customary, this is the first episode, so you'll kind of get a feel of where we're going as the episodes go by. But as will become customary, I will share a quote which will sort of serve as a focus or a center for our discussion today. So today's quote is from The War of Art. I have not read it as yet, but my interest has really been piqued by looking at a few of the quotes. The quote is, "Are you paralyzed with fear? That's a good sign. Fear is good. Like self-doubt, fear is an indicator. Fear tells us what we have to do. Remember one rule of thumb. The more scared we are of a work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it." Now, I would love to tell you guys I just spent a few minutes and learned the quote so I'll be able to say it in front of the camera, but I learned that quote as a result of refilming this video. I don't even want to say how many times. I'm trying to figure out how to explain. I'm going to be real honest. Every time I filmed the video, I got filled with this feeling like, something's missing, it's incomplete, you need to do something more, you need to say something different, But it is incredibly difficult to share yourself permanently because I don't plan to delete these videos online where persons can be harsh and hateful and unkind, and where this state of development where I am currently is permanently placed online. I know that there's always going to be something more that I wish I said or something more that I would have wanted to share, but I'm not going to allow fear and doubt to prevent me from sharing this because I know that there's someone, even if it's just one person, who will benefit from this content, from what I've shared. If you're a regular subscriber, first of all, thank you. And second of all, you'll still be getting the more concentrated step-by-step videos that you've come to appreciate. But this style of video is going to be a little different. And it really was a leap for me. I wanted to create an environment where it would be very comfortable for you to leave a comment because I talk about so many different things, and you can just share something that you've experienced or something that came to mind while I was speaking. In my other style of videos, I feel like I always had to be very concise and very precise and ensure that I just got to the information that persons were looking for. And so I really wanted to create this type of video where you're expecting me to really just talk and to speak for a longer period of time, and also where I could just freely speak to you and I'm not really worried too much about ensuring that everything was within a certain time. I really hope that you guys enjoy this more podcast length, mini podcast type of content from me, and I look forward to creating much more of it. But let me backtrack a little bit and tell you guys a little bit more about my experiences with fear and self-doubt and how they almost prevented me from being able to speak to you guys here right now to create a YouTube channel. So when I first had the idea to create a YouTube channel, I totally brushed myself off. I didn't even take myself seriously. Like, the idea came into my mind, and I remember thinking to myself, like, I didn't even bother with myself. It's just like, that's just so ridiculous that we're not even going to think about it. So while I was in that place of totally paralyzing self-doubt and fear, I made no progress because I did not take myself seriously, and so I did not start anything. I did not look up what it might take to start a YouTube channel. I did not try to look at the prices maybe for some equipment or consider what I might have already had that I could use. I didn't even tell anybody about the idea initially. There was no progress. And that is the real power of self-doubt and fear. where you're not even giving yourself an opportunity to fail. As the idea continued to constantly push itself to the front of my mind, I kept coming up with various excuses and telling myself a lot of very negative things. As the idea kept on resurfacing, it was obvious that there was something in me that really wanted this to happen. I was able to recognize that this fear that I was having might be an indicator, as the quote so perfectly phrased it. It sort of forced me to look again at the excuses and look again at the doubts and sort of interrogate them and see whether they were truly as obstructive or as valid as I initially made them out to be. One thing I can definitely say is an important first step is often recognizing fear and self-doubt for what they are, because it's hard to deal with a problem that you have not acknowledged that you have. And so it's really important to look past excuses and the negative things that you might be saying to yourself and recognize that these are purely excuses. So recognize the excuses for what they are and recognize the negatives that you might be telling yourself, not as truths, but as a manifestation of that fear and doubt that you feel. I think this can be really useful exercise. If there's something that you'd like to do or like to try, and you have a lot of excuses or reasons why you're unable to try it or unable to start or unable to find time, because I almost spilled my tea. That's like the most common reason. You can actually sit down and write out these reasons that you have and see how valid they are, see what kind of solutions you can find, because I know that there is a tendency for us to allow emotion to cloud our reason. And sometimes when you really sit down and think about the things that you have previously accepted as true, you can find a lot of holes, you can find a lot of flaws, and in this case, you can find a lot of solutions to the previously insurmountable problems or reasons or excuses that you had. And sometimes, those excuses or reasons can be very legitimate. For example, I told myself that I didn't know anything about video editing. And that's true. I didn't know anything about video editing. And that's a legitimate thing to consider if you want to create a YouTube channel. But it's not impossible to learn. And if creating a YouTube channel was something that I really wanted to do, then I could apply myself to learning how to edit videos. And that didn't even turn out to be very hard. There's so many free online courses or free trials that you can use on sites that offer online courses. There are YouTube tutorials. So, I was just telling myself that, you didn't know anything, but not considering what steps I could take to overcome these excuses that obstructed the progress I needed to make. It tends to happen to me as I go through my excuses and I consider how valid they are, and I often disprove them. I am forced to face the fact that, look, you're just scared. I had to recognize and internalize that these are the reasons that remain. Your own fear, your own self-doubt. And one thing I found really helpful in dealing with that fear and self-doubt and overcoming it was surrounding myself with positive influences, positive stimuli, both with people around me, people in my life, and people online. The encouragement from others that I received, both persons that I know and persons online, really helped me push past my fears. I don't think I've ever told my students this, but they are a big part of how I found the confidence to create my YouTube channel. I remember I was heading home for the holidays and some of my students, separately from each other, brought me little gifts. And they left cute little notes and stuff, some of them. I don't know, anybody who teaches, y'all know, the best part of teaching is knowing that, somebody really appreciates what you share and that your students really understand and were able to grow and learn and benefit from what you're able to give them. They don't know how they made my day and how they made me feel. They helped me to embrace the value in what I was sharing with them. And they helped me to believe in me. When I finally found the confidence to start telling people, I think the first person I told was my boyfriend, and I told my mom, and they were like, yes, I was just like, there are people that love me, so. But when I shared the idea with my friends and, with acquaintances and so on, they'd be like, oh my gosh, we need this, we're excited to see what you're going to create. And, looking back, it's like, Tassah, you didn't believe in you, but you had all these people that believed in you. It kind of shows that sometimes your biggest obstacle can be you, you and your excuses and all the things that you are telling yourself. So it can really help to say aloud what you want to do and to get feedback from others, because sometimes we can be our own harshest critic, but that's not the case for everybody. Sometimes you don't have people around you that believe in you, or people around you that truly support you. And in those circumstances, and to me, in any circumstance, even when you do have persons around you that support you, it can be very valuable for you to find that support and that encouragement from external sources, such as YouTube videos. I had so much to learn. There's so many details that go into creating a YouTube video. And as is the topic of this video, I also had a lot of self-doubt and I had a lot of fear. So hearing these experienced persons talk about their own experiences with self-doubt and fear, and talking about overcoming it and just taking the first step, and giving all these small pieces of advice, it sort of gradually made me feel like I could become a part of this community, that what I wanted to achieve was not so outlandish, and that it was very feasible. I felt like the more I became educated about what I wanted to achieve, the more possible that it seemed, and the more confident that I felt. I feel like that's another important thing to note about self-doubt and fear. We often make ourselves feel as though we are the only one experiencing whatever it is that we're going through, because a lot of people are carrying burdens that we don't see. And so it can be easy to assume that everybody else is fine and you're just drowning by yourself. But that's very, very rarely the case. YouTube is a great example, but it's also true for the academic side of things. I remember I was walking down from school with one of my friends. We just ran into each other. We both were walking the same way. And she was talking about some of her plans for the summer and how she wants to try to do things to overcome her fears. Basically, she was talking about some of her experiences and the fear that she felt. And I was like, yeah, like the way she was saying it, it was like something was wrong with her because of her feeling that self-doubt. And I was like, yeah, I go through the same thing. I felt exactly the same way. And she was like, she's probably going to watch this. I don't want you to feel bad because, as I said, that's how we feel. That's how people generally feel. She said, because I am always on the dean's list and I seem like if I have everything together, that made her feel as though, or that explained her incredulous response. And I told her, I'm just a normal person. I experience exactly the same things too. And I try to tell people whenever they ask me, how's everything going? I give an honest answer. And sometimes people don't believe me. But I want people to know, everything isn't perfect. And I think it's important for me to talk about that because I know that I say the same things on my channel, that I am on the dean's list and, I've had so-and-so achievements. But I say those things so that there's some credibility behind the advices I'm giving and the tips I'm sharing. But not because I want you to believe that everything is perfect. I have made a lot of progress, but this channel is a process of growth for me and for my listeners. And I hope that there are things that you can learn and ways that we both can grow. But I know I'm not perfect and I'm never going to be perfect. And I do experience doubt about all sorts of things as I've been discussing, and about my schoolwork too. I have definitely experienced my share of doubt about my work. Sometimes courses are difficult, sometimes I'm not sure whether I'll be able to perform as well as I want to, just generally. I think that's something that's really important for us to know as people. There is nothing inherently wrong with you because you experience fear and self-doubt. It is something that we need to work through and push past. But I've always said, and I'll continue to say, that you should be proud of where you are and focus on ensuring that you are applying the effort that's necessary to get to where you want to be, rather than frustrating yourself and belittling yourself for not being there as yet. I think that's a great segue for me to talk a bit more about the academic side of my life and how I've been able to work past self-doubt in order to achieve my goals, and how it allowed me to be able to find my passion, to travel to China, and to be here. A lot of people felt like it was a natural fit for me to run for year rep, but I had never really taken that idea seriously until the day that the nominations were closing, and these two girls sat down and they kind of hyped me up, but what really sold me was they painted this picture of a position where I could help others and where I could be a voice, where I could offer advice and where I could really help the student. And that really appealed to me. I remember sitting on a step and asking myself, why have you always shied away from leadership positions? Do you want to continue to remain in that comfort zone? Do you want to continue doing what you know that you can do? Or do you want to push yourself and see what you truly can achieve? This was like a pivotal moment for me, especially in retrospect, because it made me realize, first of all, that I'm not really a fan of student councils, but also it made me realize that I love to help people. I love to share positive advice and be a shoulder and be someone that people can lean on. It made me realize how gratifying it is to be able to help. It opened my eyes to how much students go through. I remember this girl told me that she had cancer. And I mean, you can imagine how shook I was. And thankfully, it was over WhatsApp, so she couldn't see my face or whatever. But you'd never expect that. You'd never think that from seeing her around. And you know, this is just like one of the examples. There's so many other horrible things students have told me that they're going through and experiencing. And you know, all that played such a significant role in shaping how I perceive life, how I perceive others, and this channel that I've ended up creating. And so the lesson I want to share from that is that self-doubt and fear can prevent you from ever stepping outside of your comfort zone. I wouldn't have had those important, pivotal experiences if I had just decided that I would sit back and not take the position. I probably would not be sitting in front of this camera talking right now. Another academic situation where I had to push past a lot of self-doubt and fear was when I tried out for international mooting. Now, mooting is basically, I think the simplest way I can explain it is fake court. So I would be a lawyer. I remember in first year watching one of the previous mooting teams do a practice basically, and this guy was up there, and the judges, which were two lecturers and I believe the dean of the law faculty as well, they were asking this guy so many questions, and he was responding to them so swiftly and, you know, with poise, and he was quoting, you know, whole sections from different cases and telling them the page number, and every time they would interrupt him, he'd have to converse with them and then jump right back into continuing his speech that he had prepared. And so it was both a conversation and him explaining his case. The part that was remarkable was he was not reading from any paper. He was just talking from his head. So he gave like basically 20 minutes of speech from his head while still answering their questions and continuing every time that they disturbed him. So I was shocked. Like, I remember thinking to myself, boy, if I could do that, I could do anything. But of course, when the time came around for me to have an opportunity to try out for the mooting team, I was filled with self-doubt. I felt like, you know, I have enough on my plate. I don't know if I can manage. I don't even think I'll get through. I've never done mooting before. Look, I had 5,000 excuses and I let the deadline pass, but they extended the deadline. They had this little informative session where they spoke about, you know, what mooting is like and, you know, encourage people to sign up. And I was like, I knew that was something I really wanted to do initially. And I knew that it would be a great learning experience and I'd have the opportunity to travel. I remember I waited until the office was almost closed and I went and I signed up. And there were 1,001 other examples of fear and self-doubt in between. But in the end, I got selected for the team and I went to China, and our university won every single prize for the debate. And my team actually won the competition. And I got a prize for best oralist. But I couldn't go back in time and tell myself at those points where I felt like I was going to give up, at those points where I felt like I wasn't even going to sign up in the first place, that you can do this. You are going to be selected for the team. Your team is going to win the competition. You're going to be selected as one of the best oralists. You're going to have an opportunity to go to China and see a whole different part of the world and experience a totally different culture. There is no way for me to tell myself that. And I know for a fact I would have been on a totally different life path were it not for that experience. I would not have known what I would have missed. So it bears repeating that self-doubt and fear are often followed by regret. And it also bears repeating the essence of that quote, or at least the way that I've interpreted a little excerpt, because you know it is. You know, if you take things out of context, you can come up with a whole different meaning. But the meaning that I would like to see from that little excerpt, the quote that we started with, fear can really be an indicator. Fear can really show you what you need to do, because that experience really exposed me to so much more of the world and so much more of myself. Were I to have allowed that fear and self-doubt to paralyze me and prevent me from taking action, I would not have ever had that opportunity. There are so many circumstances that I've seen with my students and with my friends where self-doubt and fear have prevented persons from trying their hardest because they're afraid of failure. They're afraid of doing their best and not receiving the best results. They're afraid that what they placed is incorrect. And so they end up totally psyching themselves out and not performing as well as they could. or they end up not taking a course that they're really interested in because they don't feel as though they're capable, or they don't run for a position or try out for a team that they would have really liked to be on because they're just afraid that they wouldn't get through, or they just don't answer questions even in graded classes because they're so afraid of being wrong. Like there's so many circumstances in your academic life, and of course in life generally, where fear and self-doubt can totally obstruct you from progress. And so by recognizing fear and self-doubt for what they are, looking past any excuses or engaging with any reasons that you might have, confronting any negative thoughts that you might be holding about yourself, by recognizing that you're not the only person who has experienced fear and self-doubt, by leaning on others and finding inspiration, whether from persons around you or persons online, and by repurposing your fear and allowing it to guide you to what you truly need to do, you can prevent fear from being an insurmountable obstacle in your life. If you guys have any quotes or general topics that you'd like me to talk about, make sure you leave a comment and let me know, because that's how I'm able to produce the content that you guys want to see, Make sure you like the video if you like the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay on track. I am wearing my cat hoodie, which my boyfriend got me a couple years ago. I say maybe 2015, but it's cute.